All right, so welcome to the deep dive, and today we're going deep into New Eden.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one, I think.
I hope so.
I think so too. Um, so yeah, for everyone listening, New Eden is this huge world full of these crazy spaceship pilots called Capsuleers, and
Capsuleers.
yeah, exact. Yeah, and they have all these incredible skills, and some of them are really, really rich.
Yeah, some of them are unbelievably wealthy.
Seriously, and the one we're looking at today is a Vaylin Kord.
Vaylin Kord.
Yeah, have you heard of him?
Oh, yeah, I've heard the name.
Okay, cool. So he's got it all, like money and mad skills and even one of those custom Stratios ships.
Oh, wow, a custom Stratios.
Yeah, you know those things that everyone stares at in Jita?
Yeah, yeah, those are really something.
Yeah, so Vaylin Kord, he's like the ultimate capsuleer, except for one thing.
Oh, is there something he's missing?
Yeah, he's completely alone.
Huh, interesting.
I know, right? So that's what we're going to dive into today. Like, what's the cost of being a lone wolf in a universe where everyone wants to team up?
Yeah, that's the big question. Like, why would someone choose to be alone when there's so much opportunity for connection?
Exactly. And our source material today is this story called The Lone Capsuleer, which dives into Vaylin's life and kind of tries to answer that question.
Sounds like a juicy read.
Oh, it is. And it starts by describing Vaylin as this wolf among sheep. Just to give you a sense of how powerful he is.
A wolf among sheep, huh? So he's not just some random capsuleer. He's like,
Yeah, he's like top tier.
yeah, like top tier.
Yeah, and he's got billions of ISK. Like it's nothing to him, but he doesn't have anyone to share it with.
Wow, 97 billion ISK is just a fraction of his wealth, he said.
Yeah, and he just keeps it all to himself.
So he's incredibly skilled, incredibly wealthy, but totally alone.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of tragedy there.
For sure. So the story digs into his past, trying to figure out why he is the way he is. And it turns out there was this major betrayal.
Oh, betrayal. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So back in the day, Vaylin was actually part of this small mining corporation.
Oh, no, so he wasn't always alone?
No, not at all. He actually considered these guys family.
Ouch. So they really stabbed him in the back.
Oh, big time. They ambushed him, completely destroyed his fleet, and he almost died.
Wow, that's brutal. I can see why he'd be hesitant to trust anyone after that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine being betrayed like that in a place as dangerous as New Eden.
It's like the ultimate violation of trust.
Right, and the story really drives home that point. Like, this betrayal totally shattered Vaylin's trust in other people.
So even though he's constantly bombarded with offers to join corporations, he just shuts them all down.
Yeah, it's like he's built this wall around himself, choosing to be alone rather than risk getting hurt again.
Yeah, but wouldn't that kind of limit him in the long run? I mean, corporations give you access to resources, support a whole network of allies. Isn't that essential in New Eden?
Well, that's where things get interesting because it seems like Vaylin actually finds power in his solitude.
Power.
Yeah, like the story describes his quarters as this immaculate and vast space, almost like a reflection of...
Like a reflection of the emptiness inside him.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe it's more about control. Like he needs to control every aspect of his life.
Oh, I see. So he's trying to create this perfect environment where nothing can hurt him again.
Exactly. And, it makes you wonder if his wealth and skill actually contribute to his isolation.
How so?
Well, think about it. He's operating on a level that most capsuleers can only dream of. He's got the Stratios, the billions of ISK, the combat skills.
Right, so he's set apart from everyone else.
Exactly. And maybe that makes him feel even more alone, like he's in this gilded cage. He has everything he could ever want, but...
But he's still trapped.
Yeah, exactly. And then this new mission pops up, this investigation of a lost convoy, and it's like the perfect job for a lone wolf like Vaylin.
High risk, high reward. No need to rely on anyone else.
Exactly. And he even says something like, backup is a liability.
Whoa. That's a pretty intense statement.
I know, right? But given his past, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I guess so, but it's still kind of sad.
Totally. So Vaylin heads out to the wreckage site all by himself, and it's there that the weight of his solitude really starts to sink in.
So he's finally facing the consequences of his choices.
I think so.
This should be good.
So we left off with Vaylin at the wreckage site, and he's alone, and he's won, but he's not exactly happy about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you'd think winning would feel good, but...
Yeah, but this story, The Lone Capsuleer, it really makes you wonder if Vaylin's way is really the best way. Like maybe being alone isn't as strong as it seems.
It's a really interesting take on the classic hero story, right? We usually think of strength as being independent, like you can overcome anything on your own. But Vaylin's story is kind of saying there's a different type of strength. You know?
Like the strengths to ask for help.
Yeah, exactly, like strength and connection.
That actually makes me think about that quote again. You know, the one where Valen says backup is a liability?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, I mean, strategically, maybe he's right. You know, having backup can complicate things, but what if we think about that in like a bigger picture sense, like in life?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like, what if we push everyone away so we don't get hurt?
Then we end up alone.
Exactly, and maybe we miss out on all the good stuff too.
Like real growth and joy and all that.
Yeah, and it's like Valen, with all his success and his fancy ship and all that money, he still seems kind of empty.
It's like he built a fortress around himself, right? He's safe, but he's also alone.
A gilded cage, right? Like you were saying before.
Exactly, a gilded cage.
This actually reminds me of a time when I was going through a rough patch myself. I had this friend who really betrayed me. And
Wow.
yeah, it was bad. And all I wanted to do was like shut everyone out, build my own little fortress, just like Valen.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I thought I was protecting myself, but looking back, I think I was actually making things worse.
By isolating yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't until I started letting people in again that I really started to heal.
That's so true. It's like we need other people to help us through the tough times.
And I think that's what Valen's story is really about. It's something we can all relate to in a way.
Yeah, for sure. We all go through those moments of isolation and betrayal and wanting to just hide away from the world.
So, okay, Valen's chosen the lone wolf path, but it doesn't seem to be working out too well for him. So what's the alternative? How do you go from being so closed off to actually connecting with people again, especially after being hurt so badly?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the story doesn't give us like a simple answer.
Which I kind of appreciate.
Yeah, it's not like a fairy tale where everything magically works out in the end.
Right, it's messy and complicated, just like real life.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes it so interesting. It's a story about human nature, about how we struggle with wanting to be close to people, but also being afraid of getting hurt.
So do you think Phelan even realizes that he's struggling with this? Or is he just so used to being alone that he doesn't even see it anymore?
Well, there are these little moments in the story where you can tell that he's not totally happy. Like when he sees all those corporation ads or watches those happy crews hanging out at the stations.
Yeah, like he's almost envious.
Maybe. Yeah, like there's this part of him that wants what they have.
But he's too scared to go for it.
Right, he's stuck in this pattern of pushing people away.
It's like he's at a crossroads, right? One path leads to more loneliness, and the other path is scary and uncertain, but it might lead to something better.
Yeah, it's that classic fear of the unknown, right?
Makes you wonder if that's why he keeps taking on these dangerous missions. Maybe it's not just about the money or the challenge.
You think there's something deeper going on?
Maybe like he's trying to prove something to himself or even to the universe that he can make it on his own.
Yeah, like he needs to validate his choices.
And it makes sense, right? I mean, everyone wants to feel like they belong, like they have a purpose.
But for Vaylin, that search is all tangled up with his past. With the fear of being betrayed again.
And that fear is what's keeping him trapped. Yeah.
It's like he's built his own prison.
Yeah, but the story also hints that real strength comes from letting go of that fear.
From being vulnerable.
Exactly, from taking a chance on connection, even if it means you might get hurt.
And that brings us to the final part of the story, where Vaylin has to make a choice. Does he stay in his self-made prison, or does he try to break free?
Big decision.
Yeah, and that's where we'll pick up next time.
So stay tuned, folks. We're about to find out if Vaylin can finally escape the lone wolf life. Okay, so we've been talking about Vaylin Kord and how he's basically a master of everything in New Eden except maybe making friends.
Yeah, he's the ultimate lone wolf, right?
Exactly. And in the lone Capsuleer, it seems like he might actually be ready to change.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe, but it's not like a simple thing.
Yeah, that's what I like about this story. It's not just like,
Yeah.
oh, he suddenly realizes he's been wrong all along, and boom, everyone loves him.
Right. It wouldn't be very realistic, would it?
Not at all. It's way more interesting to see him struggle with it.
Yeah.
Like wanting to be alone, but also kind of wanting something more.
I think everyone can relate to that in some way, right? Like we all
Yeah.
have those moments where we just want to shut everyone out.
Totally. And, even though Vaylin's this super successful Capsuleer, at the end of the day, he's still human.
And humans need connection.
Exactly. Like, even with all his wealth and his skills and that awesome Stratios, there's still this emptiness.
And maybe all that success is actually making him feel more lonely,
Never thought about it like that.
It's like he's achieved everything he was supposed to, but it hasn't made him happy.
Yeah, like external success doesn't always equal internal peace.
For sure. And this story really highlights that, like you can't just buy your way into genuine connection.
You got to be vulnerable.
Exactly. And then something happens at the end of the story that really throws Vaylin for a loop.
What
He
happens?
gets this message out of the blue from another Capsuleer.
Who is it?
It's someone he used to be friends with before the whole betrayal thing, you know?
Oh, wow. So someone he thought he'd lost forever.
Yeah, and it seems like they want to reconnect.
That's got to mess with his head, right? I mean, his whole philosophy is built on not trusting anyone.
Exactly. And the way he reacts to the message is so interesting. Like, the story says he keeps reading it over and over again.
Like he can't believe it's real.
Yeah, and for a second you see this tiny crack in his armor, like maybe he's not as closed off as he pretends to be.
So what does he do?
That's the thing, the story ends right there.
What? No way.
Yeah, we don't know if he responds to the message or if he just ignores it.
So frustrating.
I know, right? But it also kind of makes you think, like what would you do in that situation?
That's a tough one.
Right, would you take a chance on this person even though they hurt you before? Or would you stick to your guns and stay alone?
I honestly don't know.
And that's the beauty of this story, It doesn't give us all the answers. It just leaves us with these big questions to ponder.
And it reminds us that even in a crazy place like New Eden, there's always hope for connection.
Exactly. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from the lone Capsuleer. Even the loneliest wolf can find their pack if they're brave enough to open up.
I like that.
Me too. And hey, maybe that's something we can all take with us, in our own lives.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's it for this deep dive into the lone Capsuleer. We hope you enjoyed it. And
learn a thing or two about the price of solitude.
exactly. And who knows, maybe Vaylin will find his way back to connection someday.
Maybe we'll get a sequel.
That would be awesome. All right, until next time, keep exploring the vast universe of New Eden. And remember, even in the darkest corners, there's always a glimmer of hope.
See you next time.